Hello there. For today's presentation, it is From Beaches to Ecosystems Climate Change Challenges in Florida by Brian Sanchez, David Correa, Vin Pham, Jonathan Holliday, and myself, Georgia Hodge. In today's presentation, we'll start off with Brian Sanchez through the ecological impact in Florida, then with David Correa with human health impact. Then with Vin Pham with people vulnerable to climate change. And ending with Jonathan Holliday, adaptation and migration. These are their objectives. We'll be discussing Florida's ecological changes as well as examining and understanding the effect of current issues in healthcare in Florida, as well as breaking down the impact of climate change by explaining who is vulnerable, the minority or the lower class. Then we're going to end it off with determining migrative and adaptative strategies for restoration. For today's presentation, we'll be starting off by pointing out Florida's extensive coastline. On our right-hand side of the screen is a prediction of Florida's sea level rise by 2100, according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Florida's approach to fighting climate change is critical. This state is one of the most vulnerable in the United States due to its low-lying geographic, extensive coastline, and frequent exposure to extreme weather events. Rising sea levels, stronger hurricanes, and other climate-related disruptions are already posing significant threats to both its population and unique ecosystems. In response, Florida has adopted a range of strategies aimed to mitigating these risks through balancing economic concerns with environmental protection.
Hello, my name is Brian Sanchez, and I'm going to be discussing Section 1, which is Ecological Impact of Climate Change in the State of Florida. In this first slide, we're going to be talking about what is a ecosystem. Well, in a nutshell, an ecosystem is a geographic area where plants, animals, and other organisms, as well as weather or landscape, work together to form a bubble of life. Ecosystems are important because living organisms within the ecosystem interact in many ways, including predation, cooperation, competition, and symbiosis. In Florida, there is many ecosystems. You can see a couple listed on this slide, and some of those are forest, pine flatwood, grassland, wetland, coral reef, and mangrove. You can see a image of the South Florida Everglades, which is wetland, and it's also a national park in Florida. Today, we're gonna be talking about mainly about mangrove and coral reef. So what are mangrove? So mangroves are saltwater woodland that thrive in tidal estuaries and low energy coastal areas throughout the tropic and subtropic. In Florida, there's four primarily species, and those four species are the red mangrove, the black mangrove, the white mangrove, and buttonwood. In this slide, you can see an image of the four types of mangrove that we can find in Florida. One of them being the buttonwood, which will be that one in the top right corner, which has an arrow that says buttonwood. So that one is a tree that is often found where mangroves grow, but it's not a true mangrove. People living along the South Florida coast can benefit in many ways from mangrove. Uh, Mangrove forests protect upland from storm, winds, wave, and flood. The amount of protection afforded by mangrove will depend upon the width of the forest, because a very narrow fringe mangrove offer limited protection, while a wide one can reduce wave and flood damage to land areas. Also, mangrove can work as a filter. They filter the water and maintain their quality and clarity. as climate change is likely to have substantial impact on mangrove ecosystem throughout processes including sea level rise, changing ocean currents, increased torminess, increased temperature, change in precipitation, and increase in carbon dioxide. On this slide, we can observe the current levels of the sea in the south of Florida and the projected scenario of how 2 feet increase in sea level will impact most of the South Florida city by the year 2060. This image were retrieved from a tool that NOAA got where you can simulate scenarios where the water can continue to increase throughout the year. On the left side, we can see an image of how uh, currently the water is, and on the right side, we can see how uh, the south part of Florida City already have been impacted, and that is projected to 2060 to have an increase of 2 feet. According to NOAA data of sea level rise, areas of mangrove forest habitat are already impacted by sea level rise and marsh migration. Sea level rise is a major potential climate change threat to mangrove ecosystem because mangroves are really sensitive to change in inundation duration and frequency, as well as salinity levels that exceed the species' physiological threshold of tolerance. The other ecosystem that we're going to be talking about will be coral reef. This is an ecosystem that also have been impacted by climate change. Florida is the only state in the continental US with extensive shallow coral reef formation near its coast. Coral reef create specialized habitat that provide shelter, food, and breeding site for a number of plants and animals. The three major type of coral reef that we can find around the world, which they are also in Florida, are atoll, fringing reef, and barrier reef. Florida's coral reef tract is the world's third largest reef and measured 350 miles or 560 kilometers for a friend with the metric system from end to end. Above, we can see an image of the Horseshoe Reef bleaching event in 2023, which was like a massive bleaching event that occurred in that year. And then we can see another image that has like an animation. In this animation, compare the year 2023 with the 2024 temperatures, and we can see that in the 2024 uh, temperature were lower than 2023, which was where the bleaching event occurred. According to NOAA estimate, Florida coral reef healthy coral cover has already fallen 90% since the late 1970s, and this is likely due to a combination of factors, including diseases, heat stress, sediment, nutrient pollution, development, hurricane, and damage from boats. Additionally, due to climate change, an increase in water temperature and ocean acids are one of the suspected causes of stony coral tissue loss disease, which is a disease that occurs in coral reef. But mainly the cause of this disease is still unknown and under investigation.
Hi, my name is David Correa, and I'm going to be discussing Section 2, which is Human Health Impacts of Climate Change in the State of Florida. Healthcare systems struggle to evacuate patients with health concerns. During every major hurricane event, there's always an urgency to evacuate people that are already receiving patient care. With that, Florida needs to prepare for flooding, the collapse of buildings, and any delays that can limit a person's access to medical care. People that also cannot afford to evacuate can also be stranded during extreme weather events. This is especially dangerous because many times some roads may not be accessible. During Hurricane Milton, a lot of healthcare systems needed to evacuate, such as hospitals and nursing homes. They most likely had to do this days, if not weeks, before the hurricane landed. Climate change hurts those with diabetes and pre-existing health conditions. This slide especially hit home because some of my family members would be at risk if they lived in the state of Florida. People with pre-existing health conditions and diabetes have an increased rate of dehydration and heat stress. We could also note that excessive heat can cause strain on electrical systems, which can shut off power to AC units, refrigeration of medicine, and home healthcare devices. According to an article, Miami-Dade has 133 days of over 90-degree weather, and by the year 2050, it can go up to 187 days of temperature above 90 degrees. This doesn't just revolve around hurricanes, but also just going to the store, walking a dog, or running errands. With the person having pre-existing health conditions, it could surely affect your quality of life with the heat limiting how much time you spend outside. I was able to pull the NIH study that has data on public health issues caused by climate change. What I learned from this study was that there are a lot of long-term health issues that people could have after a major weather event caused by climate change. For example, after Hurricane Katrina, 1,500 deaths occurred that involved the elderly and black communities. You can use statistics such as these for other hurricanes that may come to Florida caused by climate change. Mental health issues affect families and children after disaster strikes. We can think of factors that may stress families and children out, such as moving, evacuating, being stranded, and losing pets or even family members due to catastrophic storms. There could also be shortages in resources that can cause stress in families, and these kinds of things can lead to long-term trauma that could affect a person for the rest of their life.